If you ever find yourself alone, wandering the woods of America, you might feel a slight unease. In these woods is a creature, an amalgamation of man and goat, said to have the ability to shapeshift, mimic voices, and lure those who lose their way on the path to their fate. Hello everybody, my name is Aiden, and today we are going to be talking about the Goatman. And more specifically, we're going to be talking about Anansi's Goatman story, which is the story that made Goatman famous on the internet and brought it to the mainstream. But before we get into it, remember, if you enjoyed this video, or you just find yourself feeling enlightened by the video, remember to leave a like and subscribe, because it really means a lot to me. Last month I was at 60 subscribers, and now we are almost double that, and I just want to say thank you guys so much. Your support really does do a lot. Also, just quick apologies, it has taken me a long time to get this video out, because I went to record it, and then I got sick, and I lost my voice, and you can probably still tell my voice is still coming back. But bear with me for this, because I'm not tip-top. A lot of cars out here. The Goatman is a cryptid that I hold very near to my heart. For those of you who don't know, I am from Kentucky. I live in Kentucky. So, in Kentucky, it's home to one of the most famous Goatman variations in the country. There's many variations of the Goatman, but we have the most famous one, and that is the Pope-Lick monster. Now, the Pope-Lick monster is a man-goat that resides in the Pope-Lick trestle in Kentucky, and this trestle, which is basically just a pair of train tracks, is over a big lake. So what the Pope-Lick monster is said to do is it lures people and gets them to climb up onto the trestle. Then once they're up on the trestle, they are hit by a train or they fall off. And this has happened before. So even if you don't believe in the Goatman, I can go ahead and say the Goatman has killed multiple people. There are multiple deaths that can be attributed to the Goatman. They went looking for the Goatman and they died because they got hit by a train. But so basically, the Goatman overall is just this, it's a cryptid. It's an American cryptid. One of the oldest American cryptids, could say. There's probably a Goatman variation for every state you live in. But at the basis of the cryptid, what it is a goat combined with man. And a lot of times it is a demonic force, but they're all different stories. There's stories from it being a goat farmer who got killed and came back as a spirit, to just an amalgamation cryptid, like just a cryptid like Bigfoot that just exists. Some stories it has an axe, some stories it shapeshifts, some stories it does nothing but lure people and make them get lost in the woods. But most people who grew up outside of this cryptid's folklore region probably would not know of its existence if it wasn't for Anansi's Goatman story. There's a sketchy car back there. If you'll pardon me and let me get my script real quick. Anansi's Goatman story is one of the internet's earliest scary stories. It can be dated back to 2012 when the story was posted on 4chan's X thread. 4chan's X board is a board designed for the discussion of paranormal activity or scary stories, similar to the paranormal Reddit. This story would go on to spread around the internet and to several creepypasta forums where it earned its title, Anansi's Goatman story. Now, Anansi's Goatman story is a story about a group of teens who go on a camping trip on a family member's property in Alabama, where they have a run-in with the Goatman, and a bunch of freaky stuff happens. Now, the story starts out as a green text story. Green text is a format commonly used on 4chan. This helps us learn a bit about our narrator and the context in which the story is being told. So, I'm just going to start reading the story for you, verbatim, starting with the green text. Be 16, be black, and have family living down in Alabama. They farm and own a huge amount of land down in Huntsville. Uncle owns a big house and a bunch of trailers they put out in the woods for hunting and camping. Down south cousins suggest that we go out there to camp. Now I'm a big city kid from Chicago, so they tease the fuck out of me. Collect food, kill a pig and some chickens, and bring necessities to the camp out for a few days. We get to the camp and it's obvious something is weird. The air has this weird electric smell, like right before a storm, like ozone. We think nothing of it and unpack and go down to the little creek to swim for a few hours. All of a sudden, some older white guy and his white teenager come out of the bushes. He has a shotgun on the crook of his arm and says hello and asks us what we're doing this far back in the woods. Tell him about my uncle, who he knows, and say we're camping out. He tells us we need to be real careful out here and stick together. There's a big animal in the woods. His son, who is my age, asks if he can stay and hang out with us. He says okay. From this point, the story abandons the green text format and takes on a more linear storytelling narrative. So I'm just going to start reading that, but know that we are no longer in text. So we end up playing football. Dicking around with me, there's the white kid Tanner, 5 of my cousins, and 4 of their friends. In total, there were 5 girls and 6 boys. We all were around 15 to 17. Also, I just want to go ahead and say the grammar in this story is not great. Do not blame me. Blame a 2012 4chan user. We ended up just dicking the day away, so we headed back to camp and pulled out some stuff for camping. Even though the trailers both had kitchenettes, Tanner says that his family's property sits up against my uncle's. He wants to run home and ask his dad if he can come out camping with us. My cousin Rooster says he's going to go out camping with him, since it's going to get dark soon. One of the girls also wants to tag along. It's about 7 o'clock and it's starting to get pretty dark. They take flashlights and take the trail towards Tan's property. The rest of us chill. We make s'mores, drink, and kiss on the girls. A couple seconds ago, a car just drew past me, and it made popping sounds when it drew past, and I thought I was going to get shot, and that scared me a lot. So I have a lot of courage right now recording this. Subscribe. About 30-40 minutes later, there's this smell of ozone again. You could smell it over the smell of the fire we had started. This really nasty, coppery smell, like right after you've had a nosebleed, and it stopped. It wasn't exactly like dried blood, but it was that nasty, metallic, back of your throat smell. We immediately think that it's some kind of electrical malfunction, or someone left a hot plate on or some shit. We search the trailers and nothing is on, and we can all smell it. All of a sudden, we can hear people booking down the path towards us. Rooster, Tan, and the girl had all come running into the clearing, out of breath, and they don't even break stride. They all run into the trailer, right by where the fire is. We all get the fuck out of there and into the trailers. They end up calming down, even Rooster's crying his fucking eyes out at this point. All the while, fire is guttering lower and lower. So my other cousin says, fuck it, and we are about to go outside to get the generator out of the shed between the trailers. Tanner goes, fuck no, lock the front door, ain't nobody else going outside. He's been crying too, and his eyes are bloodshot and puffy. His pants are dirty as shit. He goes on to tell us that they went up to his house. His father said sure he could go out camping, but to make sure that we were careful on the way back, and that maybe they should take one of the hunting rifles just in case. Evidently, Tanner has just seen something in their yard a few days before. One of their pigs had come up, ripped up and half eaten. They assumed it was just some big cats or coyotes, even though they don't usually fuck with live animals. He had gone upstairs and packed his stuff and told his dad they would be okay without the rifle because coyotes avoid people. So they started walking back towards where we were camping. So, Rooster finally stops crying and shaking. The girls already had, but she was just staring out the window with a dumb look on her face. He says that they had gotten halfway into the woods towards the camp when they started to hear shit in the forest. It was almost pitch black by this time, so they weren't sure at first what the fuck it was. The girl says that she heard something in the bushes right off the trail and that they had all beamed their flashlights over there, and there was someone standing back in the woods in a little hollow. Rooster said that they shouted at him and told him that he was scaring the fuck out of them and what a dick he was. He says that's when he realized that the guy was facing away from them. So they kept walking and they started smelling that nasty coppery ozone smell. They say that they look off into the forest on the opposite side, and there's a dude standing in the forest, backwards, slightly closer to the path. So now they all start power walking and Ken keeps going, I should have taken the fucking rifle. As they're telling the story, the smell is still super strong even inside the cabin. They say that after they started walking faster, a kind of low gibbering had started coming from both sides of the wood. They started booking it back to the trailer. The girl said that she had flashed her flashlight out into the woods to the side of them and had seen something jerking itself through the woods. The gibbering had just gotten louder and louder, and when they could see the light from our campfire, something had come out of the woods about 40 yards behind them onto the track, and they had just flat out ran as hard as they could back to the trailer. So we're out in the fucking woods, and we're assuming at this point it's some rednecks or some shit trying to fuck with us. All of a sudden, my other cousin, Junior, starts going on about how he went to school with a native kid that was telling him about the Goatman or some shit. We promptly tell him to shut the fuck up because we don't need any spooky talk right now. But he just keeps going on about how it's the fucking Goatman and how we're in his woods and blah blah blah. Now at this time, I'd never heard of this Goatman or any of that. But then a couple years ago, the year before I graduated from college, I had a Menom for a roommate, and I ended up asking him about it. And to sum it up, it's basically a man with the head of a goat, and he can shapeshift, and he gets among groups of people and to terrorize them. It's also supposed to kind of be like the Wendigo, and it's bad mojo to even talk about it, and even worse if you see it. Keep in mind, I didn't know about this back when I was 16, so my cousin is going, the Goatman's gonna get in and fucking get us. Girls are all terrified, and my cousins and I are all fucking trying to figure out if it's just some hillbillies or some animal. So all of a sudden, the smell just goes away. Like, to this day, I haven't experienced anything like it. Like, usually smells fade away or lessen. It was just there 1 second, and then not the next. So it was after an hour, making around 9 or 10, we've stopped shitting bricks enough to go back outside and stoke the fire again. We figure it was just some assholes trying to fuck with us, so we don't go back home, because we think if we do, they'll chase us through the woods or some crazy shit. Nothing else weird happens that night, and we stay another night. And for the main part of the night, nothing happens. At about 1 in the morning, we're outside getting drunk and telling ghost stories. As someone is finishing some too spooky story, I don't remember what about, the smell comes back. It's so fucking strong that one of the girls literally starts vomiting. I stand up, and you can actually feel how clammy the air is. I say we should get inside, and this isn't right. We should have just fucking left. We all go back inside, and we're standing around. My cousin just keeps going on about how it's the Goatman. My cousin Rooster tries to shut him the fuck up. And all the while, I'm just feeling that something is wrong, and I can't figure out what the fuck it is. We end up sitting there for a while. The smell is just as strong, and we're terrified and all huddled in this camper. We end up cooking broths for everyone because nobody wants to go outside. It's one of those packs with 4 broths. We have a total of 3 packs. I grilled them up on the stove, and we give everybody a hot dog. I get mine. After a while, one of my cousins gets up and goes over to the pot to get another. He starts grumbling about how I get 2 brats and everyone else only got 1. I look at him like he's fucking stupid. I tell him that everybody only got 1 because there was only 12 brats. If he wants more, he should open up a new pack and cook some more. That's when the girl that had been out with Rooster and Tan just started screaming, "Oh Jesus! Oh Lord, get it out!" She's crying and shivering, and then it dawns on the cousin standing up what the fuck is wrong. Me and him both glance around the room, and then I feel my heart fucking sink. I run the fuck out of the cabin, and the girls run out with us. The trailer door is banging against the side of the trailer as everybody books out of the cabin. One of my cousin's friend asks us what the fuck was wrong. I start counting us. There was only 11 now. I shit you not. My cousin verified. There had been 12 people in the cabin, but being that everybody didn't really know each other well, nobody had noticed the whole fucking time that there was an extra person. And then I realized earlier that I had kind of noticed something was off. You know how when you're just sticking around and having a good time that you don't sweat the smallest shit, and you don't always keep track of certain stuff? I'm dead sure that someone else had been in the trailer with us, and that they had been out there for at least a fucking day, eating with us. What makes it worse is I could figure out which one it was, because I don't think anybody actually interacted with the other person / the Goatman. So this is probably the most famous part of the story. This is actually the only part of the story that I remembered. Doing the research of this video, I actually realized that there was more of the story. I only remembered up to this point. I'm just forgetful. On second thought, I'm actually going to head inside for now, and then I will continue recording tomorrow. Alright, everybody, I am back, and it is raining really bad outside, so I will not be recording the rest of this outside, which is very sad to me. This video has been a pain in the ass to make. But I think last time we left off, they had just gotten out of the cabin because of the, whole brat situation, so I'm just going to pick up reading back where we were. The girl just kept praying to Jesus, and we're all sitting outside. Eventually, we get big-ass sticks and go back to the cabin, but there's nobody in there. We count again, and there's 11 people. We go back into the trailer and lock the door. We explain what the fuck happened, and the girl says that she realized too, and that when she was about to say something, the person sitting next to her grabbed her leg hard and leaned over towards her and said something she couldn't understand. So we're all pretty much scared as fuck as we huddle together, and I fall asleep. When I wake up, the sun is just coming up, and half the people were asleep, the other half are packing our shit up. We all want to walk back home, but 4 people want to stay until the sun is all the way up. And some people think that we're just fucking around and still want to stay at the trailers. I just want to get the fuck out of the woods. The girl's name was Kiera, the one that the Goatman had touched. Anyways, I ask her if she really thinks it's something bad, and she says that she just wants to go home and doesn't want to be out in the woods alone for another night. So we decide to split up. The 4 that want to go can go, but I have to stay because I have the keys to the cabin and it's my uncle's and I have to lock it up. I'm super pissed at this point because I feel like people aren't taking this shit seriously, and I definitely didn't want to be out in the woods for another night. I spent the rest of the day trying to convince the rest of the people, now 4 girls and 4 guys, to get the fuck out of Dodge. Tanner leaves with them to go get a rifle and says that he's going to be back, so there are just 7 of us left by 4 p.m. At around 5 p.m., he hasn't made it back yet, and we're getting extremely fucking angsty. And the only reason I stopped begging them to go back was because he went to get the gun. It's about 3:30 p.m. or so, when one of the cousins says that they did stay. When one of the cousins that did stay says that the girl Kiera is outside. We all look outside, and sure enough, she's standing by the fire pit with her back to the cabin. I'm thinking to myself, if she was so fucking scared, why the hell would she come back? And then I get this nasty feeling in my gut. Keep in mind, the whole time the coppery smell has been gone. Now I realize that I can smell just a twinge of it. I say this to the rest of them and everybody, and these are the people that wanted to stay in the fucking woods after we had the goddamn Goatman in our midst, is laughing at me and asking if I set this up to scare them. I'm looking at them like I'm not fucking bullshitting you at all right now. I asked them why the fuck I would play like that. So one of the girls goes outside to get Kiera. She gets halfway to her and stops cold. Kiera starts heaving. I don't know how the fuck to describe it. Sort of like if someone with their back turned was laughing without actually making any sound. It was this fact that made me realize that there was not a fucking sound in the whole woods. It was dead silent. This was later in September, so it was still fairly hot at the time. But it was super chilly some days too. And you could usually hear big-ass geese honking or some sort of birds or squirrels chit-chattering. So I step out of the door and tell her to come back into the fucking trailer right goddamn now. She backs up into the trailer and we lock the fucking door. We pull down all the shades except one and put a guy there in a chair to watch her. She stands there for another 20 minutes or so. The guy turns to say that she's still there, and there's a huge fucking bang on the door. We all jump the fuck up and scramble around the living room of the trailer. The banging is super fucking loud. So now my cousin is holding one of the girls, and the other 2 are kind of giggling with their nervous laughter, and me and the other 2 guys are shitting bricks. Then we hear Tan. He's screaming, "Let me the fuck in! Stop fucking playing!" So we go over to the door and open it, and he stumbles in with a rifle. There's nobody else outside. Evidently, he had walked up to the campsite. Nothing weird happened in the forest, but he had seen a girl. Mind you, He said it was not Kiera standing there. We had gotten to the edge of the clearing. She had turned towards him with a slack-jawed look and had just stared him down, slowly tracking him as he walked around the outside of the clearing towards the camp. He said it wasn't till he was almost halfway to the trailer that he had realized that she was getting closer to him. She had started off by the fire, and without even seeing her move, she had begun turning, inching closer. He said he just ran the rest of the way back to the cabin thinking it would open. When he got to the door and it was locked, he turned and it was about half the distance to the door. He looks around the room and then gets super pale. He pulls me to the side and whispers in my ear, "You know there's only 7 of us in here, right?" I get that feeling when your stomach drops to your nuts. It had been black inside the trailer while we were sorting out who was going where. And then when we all went outside to talk earlier in the day, it just slipped right back in. We looked out the window and there was nobody out there. So we recount everyone and then basically, I go over and ask everyone how many people were here earlier. And everybody says 8. I say, well, how many of us are here now? They all do the count and then realize that there's only now 7 people in the cabin. So Tana brought back a couple boxes of ammo in his rifle, and he had told his dad that there was some kind of animal in the forest because he didn't think that his dad would believe him if he said it was the Goatman. He says that his cousin is supposed to be coming down in a few hours, and that in the morning we can just all go back to his place and his cousin will drive us home. Now I'm really fucking terrified, but I at least feel better because we can be an American and shoot the fuck out of whatever it is if it comes back. But then my cousin gets into this huge argument with one of the girls because she thinks that I'm trying to be funny and prank them, and that she's getting really scared and that I'm not funny. He keeps telling her that I'm not the kind of person, and she says, well, how do we know that the girl wasn't just Tanner in a wig? Or if it's really the Goatman, how do we know that this is the real Tanner and the Goatman didn't just kill Tanner in the woods and take his gun? So we fucking get into a huge argument about this, where me and Tanner like, we could seriously have been in danger because at the very least, someone has been sneaking themselves into our fucking trailer without us knowing and mingling with us. At the worst, something bad is in the forest and fucking with us. One of the girls is crying and says that she wants to go right now. And we're trying to tell her that we shouldn't because none of us are walking through the woods in the middle of the night. At this point, the sun's starting to go down and it's getting a little cloudy out. We eat something and turn on the radio for a while. We can't really get a station out there with anything decent. So we turn it off at about the time Tan's cousin shows up. He was like 19, I think. At this point, the sun is just barely over the horizon, and he has one of those heavy-duty lantern flashlights and another rifle. We walk up to the trailer, and we whisper to Tan, asking if he's sure that that's his cousin. He says yes. The guy looks behind him and all around the camp, then walks in. He kind of glances at all of us and looks a little confused. He says, "Where's her little buddy at? I figured she would meet me up at the camp. Is she a little slow or something?" He also asked if we had been cooking blood in the cabin, because it smelled like blood in hot pans all the way up to the trail. We were all like fucking, nope! But we asked him what the fuck he's talking about with the girl he saw. He'd come down the same trail Tan had been using, and said he had come up on one of you's guys' buddies, standing in the middle of the trail, looking at him, slack-jawed. He asked her a bunch of questions, but all she did was just look at him. Then she smiled at him, and he said he kept walking. She couldn't seem to keep up with him and kept lagging a little bit behind. He said he asked her if she was hurt or something, and if she needed any help, but she had continued to stare. Eventually, he had been walking and turned around a bend in the trail. But when he turned around and went back to see if she was okay, the trail was empty. He had assumed she had taken some sort of shortcut through the woods to our trailer. We tell him the whole story and what's been going on. I half expect him to say that we're full of shit, but he just listened and then sat down on the couches in the living room. Tanner's cousin gets back to the girl. He says that when she had kept trying to lag behind him, it had kind of weirded him the fuck out, so he tried to keep her in the front of him. But no matter how slow he walked, she was always lagging a little behind, and he smelled this nasty smell, and it got closer as he got to the camp. Eventually, it got really strong. She had said something really low that he didn't catch, and when he had turned around, she had been right the fuck up on him, and he had stepped back from her. It was at this point he asked her if she was okay, and if she wasn't, asked if he should carry her back the rest of the way, and she just kept staring. He said he reached out for her, as to grab her on the shoulder, but he must have misjudged the distance, because she was off to the side of where he had put his hand, like she had moved while he was looking dead at her. So at this point, we know the shit's real, unless Tan is playing a joke, which we can tell he's not because he's almost pissing his pants. So they load up the rifles, we eat some more, and we just kind of sit around until about 11. To this fucking day, every time I think about this, I really pray to God that it's just some huge prank that my cousins played on me and just never revealed, so I would shit for the rest of my life. At around 11, the stink of copper turns into an actual nasty, gross, blood-like smell, like cooking blood and singed hair. Tanner and his cousin Reese get the fuck up instantly and grab the rifles. There's a half knocking, half clawing at the door. I shit you not, there's this voice. It sounds like when you see those YouTube cats and dogs whose owners teach them how to talk. It says in this halting, weirdly toned voice, "Let me the bucket, I'm laying." It made my fucking nuts creep up against my body, and one of the girls just starts crying and calls on Jesus. It was so fucking obviously not a person talking, didn't have the right cadence, and that's some shit I never realized until that moment. But all people have a certain cadence when they talk, no matter what language. All people have a certain kind of rhythm to talking. This shit did not have any kind of cadence or rhythm. One of those YouTube cats. That's what the fuck it sounded like outside the door. So now I'm in full-on terror mode. We keep yelling outside, "Who is it? Stop fucking around, man!" And it just keeps saying, "In," or "Let me the fuck in," for almost 15 minutes. And here, the original poster actually attached an image of the cat to show us an example of what it sounded like. It sounded like this, almost, just not funny. Sorry for being on a tangent, but if you can't imagine how this shit sounded, then can't imagine how fucked up the whole situation was. So then the smell goes away for a while, and for the next hour or so, you can even hear someone basically creeping around in the woods and shit. Every couple of minutes, it'll come back to the door and say something. Finally, when the smell fades away, it's around 2 in the morning right now. Reese says, "Man, fuck this!" and opens the door and walks out with his rifle. He fires a shot into the air and says something to the effect of, "In the name of Jesus Christ, go away!" He fires 2 more times, and then from the woods, right up against the river across from the trailer, it sounds like something is slowly gibbering and hooting. Then it starts screaming, and it sounds almost like a woman and a cat in a bag screaming together. Like, I seriously have never heard any shit like that. And you can hear the brush over that way start to shake. Reese fires one more into the tree line and then starts backing into the house. We lock the door and we can hear the shit keening and screaming. Reese says something had come out of the bushes, super low to the ground, crawling towards the cabin. Get shot at it. Pretty much, that was how the rest of the night went. It was literally screaming constantly for the next 2 hours, and we could hear shit moving out in the tree line, but it never came back to the cabin until everybody had finally fallen asleep. Tan had been sitting in the chair watching the door with his rifle. Nobody else heard or saw this, and he told me 2 days later, after the whole thing was over. He said he had been nodding off after the screaming and the noises finally stopped, and had been almost asleep when he saw someone coming out of the bathroom and lay down in the middle of the floor and go back to sleep. He just assumed it was one of us, and he had nodded off. Then he said that he kind of realized something was wrong, and while pretending to be sleeping, he counted us. There were 9 people in the cabin. He basically didn't want to try to shoot at the fucking thing in the cabin and have it kill us all there and then, or have Reese wake up and start shooting and then we kill ourselves. So we just stayed awake all night, pretending to be asleep. He said sometimes it would stand up and kind of do this weird jittery thing, or heave like it was laughing, but then it would lay back down. The story closes pretty weak, because from my perspective, nothing happened. We woke up and noticed that Tan was a little jittery, and that he was avoiding looking at us all. But we ate some breakfast, packed up, and started walking to his house. He stayed last in the cabin and said he'd lock up and bring my uncle's keys. And he said to just start walking and he'd catch up, which I didn't really want to fucking do. We got a little bit up the path, and when he came running up, basically we just jogged back to his house. His cousin took us home. There was a window in the bathroom. Tan had gone back to lock up and looked in there. We were too stupid to lock the screenless window. The window was fucking up when he went in there. I'm guessing it had been doing that all along, waiting for us to fall asleep or slip up and then get in among us. It walked with us all the goddamn way back to his house. And then he said that it lagged to the back of the group and looked him dead in the eyes before walking into the woods. And that was the end of the thread documenting this encounter. I personally consider this one of the best internet horror stories out there, and that is not a unpopular opinion at all. I know there are many people who hail this story as one of the greatest creepypastas, crypt encounters you can find on the internet. This story has definitely made many a little bit more weary of what might be sitting in the woods, and has brought the legend of the Goatman to thousands of people that might not have known about it otherwise. Although Anansi's Goatman story differs a lot in the way the Goatman acts compared to the public monster of my home state, it strikes close to home nonetheless. I'm sure that wherever you're watching this from, your community has a Goatman legend of its own. Whether that be in Maryland with the Maryland Goatman, another one of the most famous Goatman cryptids, or even outside of the US, maybe in Mexico with the Huaychivo. I'm sure that your hometown or location has a Goatman of its own. And for the most part, I believe this is by design. I think that the Goatman is a kind of cryptid story that can be copy and pasted into any location. It could be a story to keep kids from wandering off into the woods or staying out late at night. It could be a story to just bring people together or to tell at the campfire. But overall, the Goatman is a universal cryptid that I think a lot of people can relate to. And that is why this Goatman story is so important. it shows the Goatman and it exposes people who wouldn't know about it anyways to the Goatman. And along with that, kind of paves the path for more Goatman stories in the future. But I do hope you enjoyed the story and what I had to say about this. I know this video took a long time to come out. I know I'm recording this. It's been like over a month since my last upload. I apologize. I really hope you guys felt the wait was worth it. Thank you guys so much. I have to be so grateful. A few months ago, I had 60 subscribers, and now I am over double that. And thank you so much. I could not do this without you. Seeing all of the positive comments I get under each of my videos really just it keeps me going. But without further ado, if you enjoyed this video, please remember to leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more videos, and go ahead and leave a comment giving me an idea for a video you want me to do in the future. I hope you guys all have a great night. Bye!